Newman, WHMP.
We have two distinguished poets in our studio. So let me turn.
Where's the intro? Where's the intro? Come on. Hey, come on.
We're doing some headphone
I don't
juggling
even know where I
there
am.
at the beginning. Yeah, you don't get it right now. We'll do an outro for you, though.
Okay, we'll do the outro. We'll do it.
Okay, let's try to. How about this? It's NPR, Northampton Poetry Radio, with our erstwhile poet laureate, Rich Michelson.
Double erstwhile poets laureate.
It's true.
Poets laureate.
Erstwhile's poets laureate.
You have to do it like attorneys general. It's the poets that's plural.
Poets laureate. So this is a really special edition of Northampton Poetry Radio for me, especially because we've got good news. My dear friend Martin Espada has joined us, and Martin has probably been on this show, I think, more than anyone else. We go back a long ways, but this is celebratory.
There's news.
Celebratory.
There's news.
Martin Espada. I'm not supposed to read on the air, but I'm going to read from the beginning of this press release. Martin Espada awarded the 2018 Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize. It was announced yesterday. We are breaking news here on the Bill Newman Show. And I'm
Better than breaking wind.
Right, there we go.
We're also doing that.
Where did
though.
that come from? The Poetry Foundation is pleased to announce the winner of the 2018 Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize, which honors a living U.S. poet for outstanding lifetime achievement. You've reached that age. Yes, Martin Espada is awarded the prize in recognition for his contribution to poetry, the first Latino poet to win this award ever, I think. Congratulations. This is certainly, I think, one of the most prestigious awards given to American poets. It should be news all over the country. It will be because it comes with a prize money of $100,000, one of the largest literary prizes in the country. And there is no one more deserving of this prize than my dear friend Martin.
Hey! Oh. Totally cool. Congratulations.
Well, I thank you.
So,
Thank you.
So you got a call? How did this happen?
I got a call. It was from the president of the Poetry Foundation. Actually, I'll tell you how formal it was. I got a call from his assistant. And then the assistant put me on the phone with the president of the Poetry Foundation.
I said, can you hold for the president?
Yeah, can you hold with the president? And fortunately, it was the right president. And I actually was under the impression they were going to offer me a reading. I was totally blindsided by this and kind of went numb when I got the news. But I've been told that this is good news, so I'm going to treat it that way.
I think. So the Poetry
What was your
Foundation-
first hint that it was good news?
Because people who are close to me inform me that I should be joyous.
Yes. Well, I was pleased when I got your call following this. I was able to share in this good news. The Poetry Foundation is the publisher of Poetry Magazine, which is edited by Don Scheer. If you have not read that magazine lately, it is a wonderful, wonderful magazine. It's got a storied history in this country. But I think that primarily in its most recent years, the level that is picked up, it's publishing some of the most important young poets in this country, as well as some of the most important prestigious lifetime achievement poets in this country. Really, people should pick it up and see what's happening now today. Don Scheer says a tenants' rights lawyer before he became a celebrated and cherished poet. Espada's passions are as compelling and apt as his precisions, both now more timely than ever. So let me ask you, you've made, I've heard you speak so many times and so brilliantly about poetry making something happen. The famous line that everyone likes to quote is Auden's poetry makes nothing happen. You have been on the forefront for years about poetry as a political force in this country. How does it feel now to see it swinging back in that direction?
Well, I think it's always been there. It's just a matter of recognizing that poetry makes a difference, that poetry makes something happen. There's a long tradition in this country of poetry making something happen. And it started back in the middle of the 19th century with Walt Whitman. And it continued in that tradition through poets like Langston Hughes or Carl Sandburg or Allen Ginsberg, or more contemporary examples of poets in that tradition might be Carolyn Fauché or Marge Piercy. And I'm part of that tradition too. We've always been there. Yes, now certainly we are needed again as we enter an age of political chaos. People crave meaning. And that's where poets can step into the breach. As we increasingly see words divorced from meaning, alt-right being the classic example of that tendency, poets can become very useful because we can reconcile words with meaning. If they drain the blood from words, we can put the blood back in the words.
So, again, poetry, we can make it relevant in people's lives. I think your poetry is an example of that. I've seen it move people from who don't read poetry, and yet, more importantly, I think we don't realize how many people do read poetry and do have poetry in their lives. We tend to think that poetry is disconnected from the common man and woman. Your experience is the opposite.
Absolutely. The other day, I did a reading at the Care Center in Holyoke, which is an educational program for adolescent mothers who have dropped out of the public school system in Holyoke, mostly Puerto Rican. And I came and I read to them, as I have since 1993 or 94, every year. And I've seen the difference that it makes. No one can tell me that poetry makes nothing happen, or that poetry, as Roque Dalton said, poetry like bread is for everyone. And I really subscribe to that.
You're listening to NPR, Northampton Poetry Radio, on The Bill Newman Show. I'm Rich Michelson, and we're going to take a break and come back and ask Martin to read to us.
And the name of the poetry award he just won is
the Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize from the Poetry Foundation, and this is the poetry award in the country for lifetime achievement.
Martin Espada. Can't wait to hear the poem you're going to read to us, and congratulations.
This is Bill Newman, WHMP.
And this is NPR, Northampton Poetry Radio, with erstwhile Poets Laureate Rich Michelson and Martin Espada.
Well, welcome back. And we are here, of course, sharing the good news. Our local Martin Espada, a poet, a local treasure, is being recognized worldwide for the 2018 Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize from the Poetry Foundation, publisher of Poetry Magazine. Great news for our community, great news for me personally. Martin and I grew up just blocks from each other in East New York, Brooklyn. His dad is one of the premier photographers, as well as a community organizer, Frank Espada. I was pleased when your last book, Martin, came out, Vivers to Those Who Have Failed. We had an inaugural reading at our gallery, along with an exhibition of work of your dad's, which was amazing. People can still go online and see some of that photography. Start us off here with a poem. I know you talk a little bit about your dad, as well as what's happening in Puerto Rico.
Well, you're right. My father, Frank Espada, was a community organizer, a civil rights activist, a leader of the Puerto Rican community in New York, and a documentary photographer. He also died 4 years ago, which is relevant to the following poem. This is a poem I published in the March issue of Poetry Magazine, and it has to do with the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico. If you saw any images of the hurricane, you saw a town called Utuado. If you read any articles about the hurricane, you read about the town of Utuado. Utuado was the mountain town where my father was born. It's a town where my grandmother was born. It's a town where my great-grandfather was the mayor. So this is the cradle of the family for us. And this became the genesis of the poem, me talking to my father about what was happening there. Letter to my father, October 2017. You once said, my reward for this life will be 1,000 pounds of dirt shoveled in my face. You were wrong. You are 7 pounds of ashes in a box, a Puerto Rican flag wrapped around you next to a red brick from the house in Utuado where you were born, all crammed together on my bookshelf. You taught me there is no God, no life after this life, so I know you are not watching me type this letter over my shoulder. When I was a boy, you were God. I watched from the 7th floor of the projects as you walked down into the street to stop a public execution. A big man caught a small man stealing his car, and everyone in Brooklyn heard the car alarm wail of the condemned, "He's killing me." At a word from you, the executioner's hand slipped from the hair of the thief. The kid was high, was all you said when you came back to us. When I was a boy, and you were God, we flew to Puerto Rico. You said, my grandfather was a mayor of Utuado. His name was Buenaventura. That means good fortune. I believed in your grandfather's name. I heard the tree frogs chanting to each other all night. I saw banana leaf and elephant palm sprouting from the mountain's belly. I gnawed the mango's pit, and the sweet yellow hair stuck between my teeth. I said to you, you came from another planet. How did you do it? You said, every morning, just before I woke up, I saw the mountains. Every morning, I see the mountains. Utuado, 3 sisters, all in their 70s, all bedridden, all Pentecostales who only left the house for church, lay sleeping on mattresses spread across the floor when the hurricane gutted the mountain the way a butcher slices open a dangled pig, and a rolling wall of mud buried them, leaving the 4th sister to stagger into the street, screaming like an unheeded prophet about the end of the world. In Utuado, a man who cultivated a garden of aguacate and carambola, feeding the avocado and star fruit to his nieces from New York, saw the trees in his garden beheaded all at once like the soldiers of a beaten army, and so hanged himself. In Utuado, a welder and a handyman rigged a pulley with a shopping cart to ferry rice and beans across the river where the bridge collapsed, witnessed the cart swaying above so many hands, then raised a sign that told the helicopters, Campamento Los Olvidados, Camp of the Forgotten. Los Olvidados wait 7 hours in line for a government meal of Skittles and Vienna sausage, or a tarp to cover the bones of a house with no roof as the fungus grows on their skin from sleeping on mattresses drenched with the spit of the hurricane. They drink the brown water, waiting for microscopic monsters in their bellies to visit plagues upon them. A nurse says, these people are going to have an epidemic. These people are going to die. The president flips rolls of paper towels to a crowd at a church in Guaynabo, Zeus lobbing thunderbolts on the locked ward of his delusions. Down the block, cousin Ricardo, Bernice's boy, says that somebody stole his can of diesel. I heard somebody ask you once what Puerto Rico needed to be free, and you said, 3 pulgadas de sangre en la calle. 3 inches of blood in the street. Now, 3 inches of mud flow through the streets of Utuado, and troops patrol the town as if guarding the vein of copper in the ground, as if a shovel digging graves in the backyard might strike the ore below, as if La Brigada swinging machetes to clear the road might remember the last uprising. I know you are not God. I have the proof. 7 pounds of ashes in a box on my bookshelf. Gods do not die, and yet I want you to be God again. stride from the crowd to seize the president's arm before another roll of paper towel sails away, thunder Spanish obscenities in his face, banish him to a ruthless rainstorm in Utuado, so he unravels one soaked sheet after another till there is nothing left but his cardboard heart. I promised myself I would stop talking to you, white box of gray grit. You were deaf even before you died. Hear my promise now. I will take you to the mountains where houses lost like ships at sea rise blue and yellow from the mud. I will open my hands. I will scatter your ashes in Utuado.
Martin Espada, my dear friend, winner of the Poetry Foundation Ruth Lilly Prize, professor at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. Congratulations. Poetry makes something happen. You are the proof of that, and I'm so glad to be able to announce this award here today on the Bill Newman Show. That was moving and wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Martine. Thank you for your writing. We really are in your debt.
This is Bill Newman, WHMP.